All right, welcome back. In the last video, we were talking about this scatter plot here with the regression line, this line here denoting the relationship. And now I left you on a little cliffhanger. Now we're going to tell the whole story with this single plot here, okay, with this single plot. Because right now we're just saying, okay, we know the relationship between age and density, but we are not differentiating between males and females. The scientists collected males and females, data for males and females, but right now we're not plotting that. Is there a difference between age and the relationship between age and density between males and females, or is it maybe the same? How are we going to plot that? How are we going to do this? Well, right now we are using all of the basic and default settings. Okay, so we have these black points and this blue line. If I wanted, I could come in here into geom point and say I actually just want red points for whatever reason. Booyah. Gross, right? But we can change the color pretty easily. And the same thing can be said with the geom smooth. If I want a pink line, cool. Literally almost unreadable, but that is an option. Well, what if then I wanted to, let me run this because I cannot look at that. Oops. Okay. Oh, here's a good thing that just happened. I ran into this. It didn't give me an error. I tried to run this code up here, but I had my cursor in like a weird spot, so it wouldn't do it correctly. It only ran, sort of this half thing. If you come down here and look in the console, there's this little plus sign here. It means that it's waiting for another end parenthesis. It's only doing that because I screwed up. So when it's doing this and like nothing is running and it's saying it's still waiting for something, just hit the old escape at the top of your keyboard and that gets you out of that. Okay. Just a little thing that people run into every now and again. No worries at all. It happens to me all the time. Okay. So anyway, going back, the red, just like I changed the color of the points and the line, I can also change the color based on sex. Okay. And how do I do that? Well, I want to change it for both the points and the line. I don't want to do it for just one. And I also don't want to have to specify it in both of these things because I think that would be kind of hard. It turns out that if I add in just one more thing into our base layer here, that's going to do all of the work for us and can make things so much easier. And if I just come into the aesthetic function here and specify the next variable that I want, you can kind of think of the base layer here, this ggplot function, the base layer here, as all of the variables that you want to include and how you want to include them. Okay, so I want to include age and I want to plot it on the x. I want to include density and I want to plot it on the y. And I also want to plot sex and I want to split it up into different colors. And what that's going to look like is just color equals and then our grouping variable, which in this case is sex. Okay, now it uses the default settings for what color it assigns for males and females in this case. Again, there are things you can do to change the default colors, change it to match your own aesthetic or the theme of whatever paper you're writing, whatever. No biggie, but we'll stick with the default for now. So if I run this single line, I only changed one thing. I just added this one thing, this color equals sex, right? This color equals this grouping variable. If I run that, oh my gosh, look at this. So let me zoom it in here. Look at this. So now we have red points for females and blue points for males. These are the default settings too. We can change it later. And also two separate lines now. The blue line for the males and the red line here for the females. And we can kind of see now that there is a slight difference, especially at younger and older years. The relationship for males and their age and density, that relationship is steeper than it is for females. Very interesting. But we could kind of say here that, well, females, on average, at least by here, do have a slightly lower muscle density at younger ages than males. But then there's a kind of like crossing point here. Right around this area, they're just about the same, which is very interesting, right? So with that single line, let me go back. With that single line, oh my gosh, that single line, we were able to show the whole picture. Now, if you're like, man, those that shaded area there is kind of annoying. I don't even know what that is. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. If you just go into the geom smooth, because that's associated with that line, there's an argument called SE. Oops. And you can just do all caps false. And that will just, they'll just get rid of that. And it's as easy as that. You don't have to do that each time. It's kind of standard to have that's called the confidence band. I'm taking a sip of coffee real quick. Oh man, so refreshing. Anyway, that's called the confidence band. Don't worry about it for now. We're just gonna ignore that until we get into regression. Anyway, so I run that. Man, that is so nice. Okay, so that's getting fancy with these scatter plots. Now you can look on the PowerPoints for some examples of how you can overdo this. So another instance here is that I can put color, and I can also specify things by shape. And let's just do sex again and see what that looks like. Okay, so now let me zoom in. We've got different colors and different shapes. So we have red circles for females, blue triangles for males, whatever. That's not totally necessary. If it matches, if it tells more of the story, then sure. But right now the colors are doing that just fine. If we just did shape, so let me get rid of that color line. I'll delete it here. What's that going to do? Not helpful, right? Because it is plotting the points differently, but it is not plotting the lines differently. We don't know which one is which. Okay, and that is not helpful. This is a bad plot. This is horrible. Oh, it's awful. So let me just put color back in here. I think COL works as well, but we'll stick with color just so we know what it is. And that's that. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to leave it at that. And then I'll get into how we can get fancy with these other two plots as well, or at least some sort of more general ideas. So with that, I will see you next time.